check, check. 15-second countdown. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Wednesday, February 17, 2021 Design Review Commission. We have a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Krelling.
Here.
Commissioner Gorney.
Here.
Commissioner Valia.
Here.
Vice Chair Case.
Here.
And Chair Killian.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, City Commissioners may participate via teleconference. Teleconference locations are not open to the public pursuant to California Governor's Executive Order N-29-20. If the people in the audience would like to participate in tonight's meeting, the Zoom meeting ID is 977-7380-7660, and the login password is 909598. If you'd like to join us by telephone, the number is 1-669-900-6833. Okay, tonight, moving on to item number 2, consent calendar. We have one item, which is approval of the DRC meetings, the meeting minutes of January 22nd, February 5th, February 19th, March 4th, April 15th, May 20th, June 1st, and, that's July 1st and July 15th, 2020. Ken, I know a couple members weren't on the board for some of these meetings, so does that make any difference, or is this just a formality? And
It makes no difference. It's really just a formality. The commissioners voting do not have to have been at the particular meeting. And I've got something from the city clerk that explains everything, if you'd like me to read that into the record, but this just is a formal vote, if you will.
okay, I'm good with that. So do we have a motion for approval, or would anybody like to discuss the minutes? Charles?
And Ken, I don't know what the process is with DRC, so I thought I'd ask. So on the county merit board, I usually ask the other board members if they have corrections or edits. And as an example, I have one correction for one of the minutes. So I don't know how you've done that in the past.
That's fine. Yeah, if you would like to let us know what your edit is, we can certainly take that into consideration. What have you got, Charles?
The 7/1/20 minutes, it's a minor thing, but I just noticed it. It showed in one part of the minutes, it showed Carlos being there, and then another part, it showed him as absent.
Okay, I can look into that. If you would like, we can pull that set of minutes and have you vote on the rest, and I'll check into that. We can bring back the July 1 set of minutes along with the rest of the year at the hopefully the next meeting, and I can verify if Carlos was with us or not. But we can look at and certainly take a motion on the rest of the minutes if you'd like.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes except for July 1st.
I'll second.
Okay, could I have a roll call, please?
Okay, Chair Killian.
Yes.
Commissioner Krelling.
Yes.
Commissioner Gorney.
Yes.
Commissioner Valia.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Case.
Yes.
Consent calendar is approved, except for the one set of minutes.
Okay, moving on to item 3, public communication. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on items not on the agenda. So if anybody out there in the audience that would like to make a comment, now's your chance. Again, you can either call in or use the Zoom meeting ID. Again, it's 977-7380-7660, and the password is 909598.
Doesn't look like we've got any takers tonight, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public communications portion and move on to item 4, which is public hearing. Tonight, we have one item. It's the Mercedes-Benz remodel and expansion. And if we could have a staff report, please.
Thank you. So my name is Jessica Gonzalez, and I'm the project planner for the Mercedes-Benz design review and tree removal. And tonight I'll be presenting the public hearing item on the Mercedes-Benz. So just a quick site overview. The project is located at 1301 Parkside Drive, and the parcel is at the southwest corner of Parkside Drive and North Broadway. And the site is improved with the existing Mercedes-Benz dealership building. The site is zoned auto sales, service, and custom manufacturing, and is within the North Downtown Specific Plan. Moving into the project, the applicant is proposing a facade remodel of the existing showroom, new car delivery addition, signage replacements for all existing signs, a new outdoor seating area, adding new landscaping, and removing one on-site tree. And so just some background: on December 16th, 2020, the DRC held a study session on the project, and the commission was generally supportive of the addition, the remodel, and the requested waiver of the North Downtown Specific Plan setback, but did note that they requested the applicant to consider a couple of changes. Those included different doors for the new car delivery addition, increasing the height of the new fin wall, a different replacement tree species for the one removal, relocating the outdoor seating area towards the right-of-way, adding more landscaping next to the addition, and then different sign letter and colors for the main wall sign. And so starting with the showroom remodel, the photo at the top is a view of the existing showroom. The remodel of the showroom includes painting all blue elements black to create a black, silver, and white new color scheme. An aluminum composite fin wall is also proposed, which features vertical fluted accent panels that'll tie into the new color scheme. At the study session, the DRC did support the remodel changes, but did encourage the applicant to look into increasing the fin wall height. The applicant noted that their team explored additional height, but ultimately it was not structurally advisable. Staff is supportive of the fin wall and remodel as proposed. And so moving into the additions, the applicant is proposing a 3,238 square foot ground floor car delivery space addition and a small second floor mezzanine. The additions generally match the showroom colors and materials, and the use of silver accent panels on the car delivery addition ties into the new fin wall. At the study session, the DRC supported the additions, but did recommend the doors for the car delivery space be redesigned from using accordion glass doors, that's what was shown at the last meeting, to a more symmetrical door style. And so in response, the applicant did revise the proposal and is proposing 2-door swing openings as shown on the slide. Staff feels that the operational details in terms of how the doors will function still needs to be worked out and clarified, but ultimately does support the addition design and then the redesign on the doors. And so here is the revised west elevation for the proposed addition, displaying the new doors. And then here's the north elevation of the addition, displaying the new fin wall. And so moving into landscaping, the site meets the minimum landscaping and there are no major modifications proposed. The applicant is proposing to add some additional landscaping in front of the car delivery addition. Work in the area will require the removal of one small pear tree. The city's contract arborist did review the proposed removal and does support and recommend the removal based on the poor conditions, including very large surface roots. And so at the study session, the DRC did support the tree removal, but recommended a non-pear tree replacement. And for the applicant to revise and refine the landscape plans. So in response, the applicant did revise the plans and is now proposing a crepe myrtle replacement tree instead. And additionally, the DRC encouraged the applicant to add more landscaping in front of the new car delivery addition where they were previously proposing an outdoor seating area. And so in response, the applicant decided to retain 2 parking spaces in that area instead of adding more landscaping, but has moved the seating area towards the right-of-way as recommended by the DRC. And so as mentioned, the applicant has moved the seating area to be closer to the right-of-way for pedestrian use and access. The new redesigned seating area will be located within the existing landscaping adjacent to the right-of-way at the corner of North Broadway and Parkside Drive. That is the photo at the top of the screen. And so the proposal includes removing the existing turf, replacing with decomposed granite, new landscaping, and a concrete pad with a bench area. And so staff does support the proposed new seating area and the additional landscaping in front of the addition. And so moving into signage, existing signage at the site consists of 2 wall signs, 3 directional signs, and 2 freestanding pylon signs. The existing wall signs have individual blue channel letters, and the freestanding signs have blue face cabinets with white lettering and logos. And so the proposal includes replacing and refacing all existing site signage to be consistent with the new color scheme. At the study session, the DRC supported all of the replacement signs, but had a few comments on the main Mercedes-Benz of Walnut Creek sign. At the time, there was some inconsistencies with the renderings and the sign plans. The commission preferred a light silver backing with a darker lettering, or encouraged the applicant to look into silver lettering if they were going to be proposing a black cabinet. Ultimately, the applicant did consider the recommendation, but decided to move forward with the black cabinet and white lettering to be consistent with the Mercedes-Benz corporate branding standards. The sign plans and elevations were revised to be consistent, and all proposed signage does comply with the maximum height and size requirements. So staff is supportive of the new signs that are proposed. And so staff does recommend that the DRC move to adopt the resolution granting final design review approval, tree removal, and setback waiver of design review application Y20056. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions of Jessica? Okay, everybody's nodding their head no. So thank you, Jessica. If the applicant's online now and they'd like to go ahead and make their presentation, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Sorry, sorry to get the microphone on. I apologize. Deke Snyder with Gensler. I met with you guys during the study session.
Okay, do you have a presentation or just want to answer questions, or it's your call?
I'm happy to answer questions. I can run back through it very quickly because I know the staff report was extremely complete. So let me just make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Are you guys viewing the screen with the renderings on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to. It's only if you want to give us
Okay.
more information that
Well,
we don't have.
No, I was going to bring your attention to the bottom right-hand corner rendering was a little bit more of a descriptive rendering of that. The decision to move the seating area, which was keeping in the spirit of the specific plan, out to the corner, which I think was a great recommendation. And I thought that this rendering was a little bit better than maybe the clip image that staff had provided, just to show a little bit better in context how that would sit in the corner. But otherwise, it was a very complete report. So I really didn't have anything to add unless you guys had any particular questions. I'm happy to answer those.
Okay. Are there any questions of the applicant? Joseph? You're muted, Joseph.
Must do it automatically. I was curious about the doors from the new area. I know originally we had seen the triple door, but they weren't the same size. And so there was one small door and two big doors. And now you're showing giant swing doors. How do you do swing doors like that and not have them blow around in the wind and come back and hit the car as it's coming out the door? And
Well,
you know, did you look at a triple bifold that, you know, was just the same size panels?
Right. The product that is commercially available to do these large scale doors that are warranted, it's the same company that makes the storefront system, historically has either a pair of swing doors in the event that you don't need that door to also perform as an exit, or the threefold doors, which is one door which is size 36 inches for a typical panic hardware, and the other two will make up whatever the difference is, whether it's a 9 or a 10-foot opening.
Right.
We have, you know, the handover of the vehicles as such, it's always a multi-person job. These doors typically have closer hardware. They have foot toe kicks and so forth on each panel, so that when they open up, they can be fastened down to the ground to stop them from swinging around. But there are provisions to secure them in kind of the open position so they don't blow around. But in this particular case, the exit door for the new car delivery is actually to the left of these car bays.
Yeah.
So since we didn't need those to be an exit, we had the option of doing the larger glass. The other thing was that there was no real great way, the math just wouldn't work out to get the symmetrical but alternating, you know, there's like, we had an odd number of openings and an odd number of doors, and they wouldn't match up. So honestly, we felt that the two larger swing doors just kind of cleaned up the proportions of the facade a little bit better.
Okay,
So-
and there was a confusion a little bit in the staff report. There's no vertical post between the two doors, right? They just have a locking mechanism, I'm assuming.
Correct. One door typically has throw bolts into the ceiling and the floor, and the other door has a locking mechanism to lock it to that door.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the seating at the street, and you know, I'm a little underwhelmed with the design of it. I mean, it's a semicircle with a, you know, with a concrete pad and a very standard looking bench in the middle of it. It doesn't seem very Mercedes-like to me. I mean, I'm just curious, was there any other thing? I mean, I don't know who would ever sit there in a million years. I mean, I was hoping it was going to be closer to your building somewhere where if I'm waiting for somebody to pick me up, I could walk over there and wait and not feel like I'm just watching cars run into each other. So I don't know what the landscape architects on the commission think. I was a little underwhelmed.
One thing I'll just point to, I'll put this presentation back up just for, I mean, again, with proximity, one of the, you know, this is it's a very busy site. Parking is at an extreme premium. With the parking against the outside curb, a lot of slope in the grade kind of between the edge of parking and the sidewalk. They're really, there's almost nowhere to tuck a seating area. The realistic place to sit where people would probably benefit most greatly is near the service entrance.
Yeah.
Only because that's usually where they hang out waiting for the car, but
Right.
there's even less space there. So um, in the, I guess kind of referencing back in our original discussion about the specific plan overlay and looking for something that would be address more of kind of the public. We thought that the intersection it's both flat, so it has less handicap accessible obstacles from the surface. Now, however, if we were looking for a larger pad or looking for a different bench, I mean, if the city has anything which would sort of fall into a standard aesthetic for, I don't know if there's currently a, a, a palette, if you will, of sort of benches around town in different configurations. I mean, we'd be happy to look at whatever product would be consistent. There's unfortunately no Mercedes designed benches. There is one that Porsche Studios designed. It's about $12,000 and it rusts. So maybe maybe a little maybe too close to their vehicles, but we're open to that. We're open to that actual final selection of the piece, and we can work through those details with staff as you guys would like.
Okay, I'd like to hear what the other landscape architects think, and I'm just assuming stabilized decomposed granite doesn't need a lot of maintenance. I mean, I've seen some DG in some areas really just look ratty, and it seems like sitting over there by itself on the street, they'll have cigarettes in it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
The only other, just one other thing to point out, the recommendation from landscape was to do the DG because these are existing trees. So we didn't want to put any, I mean, we even talked about pervious pavers, but the amount of water that really gets through them, they felt might would have a less desirable effect on the root structure. So, given that we do have some nice trees that are, they're not mature, but they're established. In order to preserve those and utilize as a benefit, they had suggested the DG just for water purposes.
Okay, thank you. That's all my only questions right now.
I did have comments on that spot, so I'm gonna jump in. So I had a similar feeling that corner zone felt a little basic, like it was just a very obvious solution. I did recognize that it made sense at that intersection corner because there seemed to be the most space. But one of the thoughts that I just wanted to ask if it was considered, is there a scenario where maybe the pedestrian zone isn't entirely connected to the sidewalk and instead maybe there's a landscape separation at some point so that people might actually feel comfortable lingering there, and it's less about the passing traffic and it's more like maybe somebody had a coffee down the street or a Kinder sandwich or something. Like there may be an opportunity for a little bit more of a pedestrian realm.
Sort of pull it back a little bit and actually allow some landscape in the front edge.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like just some protection. It's like how on a streetscape where there's a parkway, you feel a little safer walking with your 3-year-old kid. Like just some kind of a buffer, and I mean still access points so it's accessible and and then maybe the seating option, while a bench is better than nothing, maybe it's something that allows again for a little more lingering. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a table, but maybe things where people can kind of sit together and have a conversation or share a coffee or something like that. It just went through my mind because I think the intent of this in light of the North Downtown specific plan was to give something back to the pedestrian realm. And I think creating a place where people can use it, even if they're not necessarily just going for Mercedes-Benz, is the goal.
Yeah, I think we it is, I mean, it is the obvious location. Primarily, it's the only place where we've got kind of two crosswalks intersecting. So it made sense there may be someone there. This isn't as much of a, at this point in time, a pedestrian environment is it may be in the future. But I definitely think if we needed to push the radius back and actually get a buffer across the front, that would certainly be something that's possible. This area is relatively flat, so we can still probably make those connections to the sidewalk. And it's simply pushing back and extending the surface back a little bit. I don't think that'd be an issue if that's a, if the goal ultimately is to approve the project, but have conditions of approval to have a few of those design things solved, we certainly can do that.
Yeah, and I think any opportunity, like Joseph mentioned, where it could somehow give a nod back to Mercedes is kind of fun. You know, I don't know if there's like some engine part or something that you can see I don't know, like just
I
something
used
like
to,
that would be neat and might make it
yeah.
feel a little more appealing to Mercedes, that it has some kind of relevance to their site and it's not just this disconnected
Yeah.
element. So I don't know.
We've
And
we've
that's
tried
really,
to we've tried to do the logo in plant material before, and it usually works until they change landscaping company, and then someone somehow forgets what the Mercedes logo looked like, and we've just got a circle and maybe it's more of a peace sign when we're done with it. But you know, we could look at that. I think if someone's to do something other than sit there, I mean, there's a whole plethora of outside furniture that we can look at. If we just create a spot where we can anchor it, I think we could look at those options. Um, you know, I wouldn't want to put something out there that ultimately wasn't cared for or maintained, and then later on you're like, well, did somebody leave an engine block out there on the corner? Like, what's that about? You know, I don't. And then later, you know, a year from now, I get the phone call like, you know, the engine block was not such a good, you know, decorative element. But
right.
yeah, I understand where you guys are going with it, and I certainly think we can put something together that's a little more robust and has more protection.
Mhm. And I had one other comment, in the zone that used to be the seating area that has the stormwater planter nearby. I think I made this comment last time, and I don't mean to be too nitty gritty, but the Muhlenbergia and the Blonde Ambition are what are slated for that above proposed above ground. Oh, so I actually thought it was in ground.
So in the old proposal, we had to build up this area. It was all above grade, so it was kind of like in planter boxes,
Right.
and because of retainage, and with and going back, and honestly, I mean, the client really advised. I mean, they're struggling for every possible parking space they can get on this site. They're pretty underserved. This actually brings it back down to more of it's an at curb level, so it'll actually what it does is we're digging the bioswale deeper into the grade and putting all of that below grade now instead of building up in planters. Um, there was a comment we talked about, you know, whether or not we could put a window in this wall and be able to see out. Part of that is also it's a retaining wall as it goes up the hill. So there's by the time we got a window, it would be too high to probably see out to landscape that was beyond it. You'd be looking, you know, 3 or 4 feet up in the air. So we kind of went through a battery of discussions and with structural engineer about that wall, about the blade wall, trying to understand the complex structure of the existing blade wall. Simply adding to it was going to be problematic for our engineer. So that this was what the landscape designers kind of defaulted back to when we said, well, let's turn our energy to the corner, and clearly we can spend a little more energy on the corner to sort of make that the statement piece.
Okay, so I want to clarify because on what's on the screen, it says above ground, but the civil plans that I see say in ground, and you said it's about curb height. So,
Well, I'm looking at, do you have the section of from the civil? I thought that the last I saw, they were just slightly, they're not, I think the original scheme, they were up at like 24 plus inches. I don't recall now.
okay.
I don't have the full civil set in front of me to reference. I
You don't
apologize.
either. Yeah.
I just see the note that it says in ground on the civil plans. I don't see this section. Okay. Well, so then in light of that planter, I just didn't know if there was consideration for adding in some plants that don't all get hacked back. So something evergreen, or else it's just gonna look gnarly in the winter.
We can confirm with the landscape architect. I mean, my experience with anything in these retention areas is that there's a specific kind of palette that they utilize for dealing with kind of that ebb and flow of water levels. So historically, the grasses and things which are not, I guess that's the I think you said it correctly. I can't pronounce that. The
I just call it Blonde Ambition. That's
Blonde
easier.
Ambition. Okay, yeah, go with a simple name. I was trying to still figure out how to pronounce the first half of that. You know, we as design professionals, I'm very fast to default to the landscape architect's recommendations because they're the ones who 2 years from now, when everything's dead, they get the call to say, "No, come on out and replace it all." So I'm kind of defaulting to their judgment on that.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
If there's a desire to explore other ones, I can go back to them and ask as well. I mean, if that's something that you guys would like to focus on again.
Okay.
I have a follow-up to that. Is there an art component to this project?
I don't.
Ken?
What we were doing, I believe, was making the donation in kind to,
Okay.
so it's not being incorporated on site. Whatever the fee equivalent was being written back to the city for, presumably. I mean, and to be honest, that's, I think, you guys collecting money to do something more meaningful than these guys putting something on the building might be more appropriate. There might be a better place in the city that you could employ those dollars.
I don't know, so as much as I see a lot of his work, but I always like Colin Selig is a local architect that does these benches made out of propane tanks. And there's one in City Hall, it's a purple one in the downstairs. And I could see a black one there, out in front that
Okay.
matches the building, but still has some art to it. And maybe you could spend it on that instead of on your donation. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, but it would be something more artistic that you can also sit on. Just a
Sure.
thought.
Has that, I guess, worn well over time? The one at
Yes.
City Hall.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're made out of tanks, and they're like automotive paint, so they last forever. They have them in downtown Lafayette and also in their little downtown.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be
Just a
happy to
thought.
talk to
Yeah.
staff and get their information. I mean, if we're going to need a bench one way or another, and that's a preference, we have something artistic. I mean, that would, I think Sonic as a large organization and probably partially on our advisement, because we've done this in a few places, is that the process, they're not generally, they don't usually engage in long processes of that selection. And so they make the donation because they figure the cities have bigger plans that they want to fund. But we're happy to talk to, if they're local and we can get their contact information from staff, we'd be happy to reach out.
Yeah, it's a thought. If it's a complicated process, I wouldn't do it, but I just think it would look more interesting out there, and it would look like an engine block.
Yeah, Carlos, any questions?
Charles here. No, I was pretty happy with the revisions. I too defer to the landscape architects for really like the seating area and everything. I think it's a nice spot for a seating area. I thought about the Bondadosa Coffee Collective, half a block away. I can imagine, using this spot here. I do like what Commissioner Case said about incorporating something that ties it back to the dealership, makes it integrated. And I think you're sort of hearing that theme, because I think Commissioner Gorney also was kind of going that way with maybe an artistic bench. And if not an artistic bench, maybe a blending of the ideas as something artistic that relates to automotive or transportation could be there as a piece of art in addition to a normal bench. So I like what my fellow commissioners were recommending to sort of spruce up that spot. And that really is that's a heavily trafficked intersection. I've driven by that so many times. That is a really front and center corner that would get a lot of views.
Okay, Carlos, any questions?
No questions. I wasn't at the previous presentation. It's a seamless addition. I mean, it looks like it's always been there, which is a great thing. It makes improvements to the building, but it's not going against what's already there. My only concern, and I'm going to, I'm going to piggyback on Commissioner Gorney's first reaction to that corner seating. I don't see anybody sitting there actually, but if it's a piece of art like Vice Chair Case is trying to put it, or like Commissioner Gorney is suggesting, it might do something. It could be art, but I hardly see anybody sitting there. It's not a very desirable location to sit down.
Okay. I have one question about the sign. Again, I think in general, the city kind of discourages the white lettering. I don't think in my memory, we've ever allowed that. We've always gone a little bit different direction. So if that comes up, what are your options? Do you have a silver lettering that's available, or?
So the face of the lettering that you're seeing is actually an acrylic, so that when the lights are on in the evening, it's internally illuminated. These aren't edge lit letters or backlit letters. Right now, Mercedes and their sign vendors don't have any alternative to the black on white. I do know there's I was trying to think after our meeting, I went and did like Google Street Views and sort of cruised around all of the different, looked at all the signs of all the existing car manufacturers. And ironically, maybe none of them are white, but they're all what their brand standards are. Toyota's, red, and Maserati is silver, and Volkswagen and so forth. So most of the companies that make these signs there's only two different ways to do an internally illuminated sign. And sometimes the letters are black, which then glow white at night. But the particular fabricator that Mercedes uses doesn't produce that. Others do, but they won't be permitted to provide the signage for a Mercedes project. So that was, we were, at the request of the client, said to show the signs that we have access to, and if this weren't permitted for whatever particular reason, then in all likelihood they would stay they'd stay blue, and they would just be blue signs on a black building, which I don't think is what anybody would want, but that's we don't really have any other path to a different product at this point.
It seems like all or nothing, kind of throwing in a bluff,
I mean, we did have the sign vendor was on the phone call during the design session and spoke up and did say that they can't produce them in any other color. So I guess that is really that's at your discretion. I can't commit to any other type because we don't have another source to provide it.
Okay. All right. There's no other questions at this point. I'm going to open up to the public. Again, if anybody in the public would like to join in on this and make some comment or ask questions, again, the meeting ID is 977-7380-7660, and the password is 909598. Telephone number is 1-669-900-6833.
Doesn't look like we have anyone wanting to chime in, Mr. Chair.
With that, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission for any comments and see where we go with this.
I'm ready to approve the project with the understanding that some more thought gets put into that little park area in the location that it's shown. I have walked the site a lot, and I realize it is kind of slopey around there, so I have no issue with the location. I just think that it needs to be more design to it. I think that could be either done by staff or, if we need a subcommittee, we can do it. For some reason, I've been noticing a lot of Mercedes signs. I was in Marin the other day and noticed theirs and a couple of others. I don't have as big an issue with the white on the lettering, just because the style and the quality of the lettering on the black, I think, looks fine. And in this case, I would accept it and support it. And that's pretty much it. Other than I think the project is fine.
Okay.
I'll chime in, Charles here. So on the sign point, I'm accepting of the sign as they're proposing. And I think for me, my reasoning is that if that's the standard Mercedes-Benz corporate logo and it's done with high quality, I think at some point, I don't know how much we should be telling the site owner of a branch of a large corporate presence that has a kind of a uniform sign design. I'm guessing not just in the US, but it's probably in other countries as well. I mean, it's a corporate logo, it's a brand, it's an image. And so I'm good with the sign as they're suggesting. I'll just throw one other comment on the little sitting area at Parkside and Broadway, and it's going to be a completely different look at it, partially based on what some of the other commissioners were mentioning about, well, maybe no one will ever sit there. You could sort of flip the design 180 degrees and really have it more inward facing towards the dealership with some sort of path, pedestrian path going across that lawn into the dealership. You might lose a parking spot if you do something like that on that other side, yet find a way for the border on the outside. So now in the landscape, instead of going inwards, it would be more following the contour of the street, but you wouldn't want it solid. You'd have to find something to make it inviting to a pedestrian who's walking by as well. But perhaps if it's more orientated for patrons and employees of the dealership, maybe it might get more use, but it's a very contrarian idea because it's 100% inverse of what's there. And I'm okay with what's there as well.
Can I dovetail quickly on that, based on what Charles said? We've asked this on a lot of projects. Is there a restriction on how late the lights can be on for the Mercedes-Benz and Walnut Creek? Or is that something that sometimes we've done through design review as far as restricting the hours of lighting all the signs? You know, I know, Brian, you were concerned about the white lettering. Is it intended that the light's going to be on 24 hours?
So the signs per Title 24 do require dimmable control function, and most of those are put on timers similar to the lights on the actual site. I don't know if their current signs are being I don't know if the signs, the letter sets are being dimmed down with any site lighting provision. I mean, that's an operational question we need to get to the bottom of. However, the lights are able to be time clock functional and have dimmable capability. So you could, I mean, that would be something that would be a possibility to look at that gives some controls over it. We have a similar condition in Newport Beach because we have a facility that faces the back bay, and a lot of people want dark sky around, you know, the water. So there's a time limit, and I believe the lights on the sign do go off at a certain point in time. I don't know exactly when it is, but they don't stay on all night long. So I'm not sure if there's currently a provision, like an operational provision for this franchise, for this dealership or the business, which controls the light timing or dimmability, but that might be something that staff could find if there's something on record that's already in place.
Brian, I didn't mean to reopen the public hearing, but I definitely think it was worth it to have this discussion. We've done it before. Do you think it's something we need to consider, Brian, to make you feel better about the white?
Well, I think it would help. Again, I'm a little bit concerned, white has been, that is a city standard that we've been frowning on for the brightness, and irregardless whether it's a branding or not, City of Walnut Creek has frowned on white lettering in the past. So anyway, let's move on. Carlos, you're muted. Do you have any further comments or?
No, I take no exceptions to the project. Besides the corner that I think will gear more to be the place for a piece of for an art, for sculpture, for something like Commissioner Gorney suggested. I take no exception to the project. I think it's a good addition.
All right, Casey.
I'd like to see just a study of some evergreen plants, if possible, in the bioretention planter. And then I'd like to see that corner element somehow made into a place where you might want to drink coffee. But I think both of those things could be handled by staff or a subcommittee. So I'm comfortable moving the project along this evening.
Okay. My views are I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the white lettering. Again, just more from a city standard as opposed from a design function. So, you know, I'm not that strong on it, but I do want to make that point. As far as the seating area, I think this is one particular area to where really it seems like we're just satisfying a condition. You know, that's part of this community and this neighborhood to have this seating area. I don't think it's ever going to be functional. And I think the enjoyment's going to be more of the, shall we say, emotional what if you're driving by, you know, there's a seating area, even though probably no one will ever use it. So I don't think it has to really be anything more than that, because I don't think it's going to be used. You know, if it was a drop off, it'd probably be more used away from the intersection, pulled back where a car could, you know, drop someone off without causing an accident and so forth. So in my mind, this is really just satisfying the intent and the image of a bench out there, you know, making it more neighborly. It satisfies that purpose, but it'll never be a functioning space, you know, for what this project calls for. So I'm okay as it is. So with that, unless there's no other discussion about the signs, I think
Chair Killian?
everyone's okay with the building and the doors. I haven't heard any discussion on that. So it's really, I guess, if we can come together on whatever seating area we want, and if we're happy with the signs, we can move this along. Charles?
I was listening to what you were saying about the seating area, and I wonder if the majority of the commission feels that it would never be used, should we just waive it and have it either be an art space or not a designated space?
I think there is some importance to the visual. You know, I don't think it'll be used really. I think there is some importance of a visual indication that it could be used. You know, I think that does have some value. So
Great, thank you.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to waive the requirement 100%. I think we should do
Well,
something.
I think in the long run, aren't we, long term, looking to have a Maker's Row and a much more vibrant North Downtown area? So I wouldn't want to just bail on this part, even if maybe by the time that all happens, this is a little more dated. It seems like lead the charge and make it someplace people want to go to. And if a lot of people use it, that's okay. At least it's appealing and it's memorable and it's not just a throwaway thing. That's what I would want to see.
Okay. So do we want to make it stronger as a condition then, Casey, or give them direction? I mean, I think we ought to either give them direction to make it that, or we accept it. You know, I think try to be as clear as possible to the applicant.
Yeah, I think, and I hate to do this, but I feel like a subcommittee is maybe the best way to handle just that piece. And I'd be willing to participate in that, just making sure it's something a little bit more than a throwaway. And I'm not looking for it to be expensive or complicated, but just usable and serving the public realm. So I think I would like to make that a part of the condition.
Okay.
A quick question to Ken. If we wanted to, limit the signage lighting to 50% at night, do we have to put that into a motion today? Or is that something we can send to the subcommittee? Or I just, I've become concerned about Brian's concern about having white lights all night long. I know we've done it before, so I'm just trying to figure out.
You could make that a condition. Here's my thought on that is that the white lettering, Brian's correct. It's kind of been a policy over the years to discourage bright white. In fact, we've asked businesses to do an off-white, if anything. What we want to really, there's no policy that would prohibit it. There is a policy that prohibits cabinet letters.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, cabinets with white backgrounds. I think the idea was to keep the amount of bright white down. So we've discouraged, large signs with white letters. We have discouraged that. I'll just throw in that this is not in the downtown area. it's not going to exacerbate a light issue because it's not around other businesses that have bright signage either. This is kind of on the edge of town. It's set way back off of the street. Jessica and I kind of talked about this as well, and we decided not to discourage that or bring it up in the staff report. And it's not something that I feel it would be a huge issue, but you could certainly include any kind of condition if you would like to do that in the resolution.
Okay.
Maybe, I was gonna say, maybe one condition, if any, related to it would be that there's no adverse impact on the, I can't remember the name of the townhouse condo complex right on the other side of Parkside, because that's residential.
Main Chance Estates, yeah, that I believe that doesn't that have a sound, not a sound wall, but a wall that goes around there. And I understand, yeah, it's kind of hard though to
Yeah. Different times.
qualify that in writing somehow.
Yeah.
So that may be a little difficult to do.
And they would have been,
Concerned
they're
that-
part of the 300-foot notification zone, those residents?
Yes, they would.
Okay, so they would have had an ample opportunity, and I think you're right, and I'm looking at the satellite images too. There is an immense amount of greenery that I think would pretty much block any visibility of that sign, if I recall from driving too.
Was there any concern? This is a business that, again, I don't know if anyone's going to be buying a car after maybe 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. I don't know exactly what the hours of this business are. But again, just to dim the lights or have that light shut off, say after 10 or 11 o'clock, I don't think it's going to harm the business or anything.
Nope.
And again, I think that's a nod toward keeping this white light, to a minimum.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the project with the park area being more carefully designed and coming back to and possibly incorporating the art if it's economical for the business to do that, with a subcommittee of me and Casey Commissioner Case to review it. And that the applicant consider more evergreen plants for the bioswales, and that the white lettering is dimmed 50% from 10:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And if that is not acceptable, it could be taken back to the sign subcommittee for discussion.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, a roll call, please.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Gorney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Krilling,
Yes.
Commissioner Valia,
Yes.
and Chair Killian.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. I'm sorry, just for clarification, I just want to make sure, Commissioner Gorney, that was 50% dimmed from what time to what time?
10:30 to 6.
Okay,
All right.
all right, a project is approved.
Thank you to the applicant, and we'll move on to item number 5, commission considerations. Do we have any?
There are none, Mr. Chair.
Item number 6, commission member and staff reports.
I have a question. At the beginning of the meeting, I know that the chair always reads out the numbers for somebody to dial into this meeting. Is that meant to go to the television audience so that they can dial in? I mean, if they're already here, then they already know the numbers. Who's that really for?
But yeah, that's my understanding. Matt verified it's YouTube and television.
I think it's when I tried to like write it down as we were saying it, and there's no way you could do it quick enough. I just wonder, is there any way we could put a slide up that's those numbers and, you know, instead of Matt's name, is to have the number up there somewhere so that people could see it. It just seems like if they really wanted to dial it in, they couldn't do it. They'd have to go on the website and find it, which not everybody likes to do. Just a suggestion.
Now, isn't there a banner when it's running on the Walnut Creek TV? I thought I've seen a banner at the bottom that has all of that.
Maybe it's there. Matt?
We can look into that. We're yakking about it right now.
Okay, cool. I like that. Thought I had something else, but I guess I don't. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other reports or announcements?
I've got a couple, Mr. Chair, if no one else does.
Okay,
Just a reminder that March 3rd, we will be electing, that's our next meeting. We'll be electing a new chair and vice chair. So keep that in mind. And also I wanted to mention that last night, Toyota of Walnut Creek approached the city council regarding a general plan amendment and a modification to the specific plan. The council agreed to allow the applicant to move forward with those. That would allow certain Toyota-owned properties that are existing between North Broadway and North Main Street to be redeveloped with mixed use, including residential above automotive and auto dealerships. So I want to let you know that because this some kind of a proposal will be coming to the Design Review Commission. There was talk about having a joint meeting with all the commissions and the council up front to talk about this because it was not envisioned by the general plan or the specific plan, but is something that the city council was kind of excited to hear. So authorized the application to move forward through the process. So I wanted to let you know that.
Interesting.
Okay.
All righty,
and was that it?
that is it.
Okay, so go to number 7. We're done. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
One other quick question, Ken.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, why are we still doing minutes? I'm just curious about the minutes. Is that just required by the state or by law? You know, because everybody goes online to be able to see the meetings. You know, in the old days, we'd have a real discussion of everything that was said. Now it's like so-and-so talked and that was the end of it. And so I'm just curious as to why we still do it.
Yeah, it's part of the municipal code, I believe, requires all the commissions to have minutes. You remember, we used to have a minute taker at the meetings. You remember that?
Yeah.
At some point, we went to this Granicus video, and it was determined that all we needed were action minutes. So that's what we're down to is action minutes. What happened, what the vote was, who was present, and that is it. It's a good question.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to know what happened at a particular meeting, they can go back and look at it on the Granicus video and not have to rely on any minutes. But right now, it is something that is required.
I remember when Brian first started, they had to like chisel it in stone, and it took a long time to do.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Much more
Then we moved to the quilt pen. That was
Right.
exciting.
What we're doing here is also consistent with what we do at the county.
Is it? Okay. Okay. Just had to check. Thank you.
Okay, we're still adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Bye,
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, thank you.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.